Hello, welcome to my next review video. I've had lots and lots of people ask me over the years about this particular machine I own, and I thought I'd do a video now because I have owned one for 3 or 4 years now. And that machine is the Osmio Infinity. The American version I think is called the AquaCure AC150, something like that. So it's exactly the same machine, it's just that in the UK it's branded as Osmio and called the Osmio Infinity. Very well recommended company, by the way, if you're looking for water filters and anything to do with purifying water. Fantastic company, and really good customer service, actually, really good. So to start with, I think I'll talk about how I feel about the machine, how I feel it's benefited me and others that have used the machine first, because that's what most people seem to be wondering about, whether it's worth the money, and then I can go into how it works, what it does, go into the workings of the machine. So it's a Hydroxy machine, but more specifically to this machine, it's a Brown's gas machine. So Brown's gas, named after the man who discovered that particular gas. And very simply, inside here we have pure water, so you can only use distilled water, and then the machine splits that water using electricity into mostly oxygen, so O2, and hydrogen gas, so H2. But you do get some O on its own, single molecule oxygen, and you also get some single molecule hydrogen, and you also get some water vapour, of course, and some of that water vapour will be like a plasma form of water, so a higher vibrational state of water. So that's what you get with Brown's gas. That's why it's called Brown's gas. Hydroxy gas really is a machine where you have a thing down the middle, which means that when you electrify it, it splits it into oxygen and hydrogen, but you don't get the super plasma water as well. And then the idea is because you do use some sodium hydroxide, so you do have some sodium hydroxide inside the machine to make sure that no bacteria or mould or anything grows in there, and it makes it easier for the water to be split. And then, of course, because it does have sodium hydroxide in, you don't really want to be breathing that in or putting it on your skin, so this here collects water vapour and 99.9% falls back into the machine. And then, of course, the gas goes into here and bubbles away here, and then this distilled water here as well is designed to catch any sodium hydroxide that may somehow make it through to this point. And then it goes through another tube into this little bottle here, and then you can use this as a secondary way of sort of collecting things if you're not very good at emptying the water here so often. But really, the main use of this is drinking water. So you put water in here, bubble the gas through it, and then that energises the water, puts lots of oxygen and hydrogen in the water, so you can drink it as well and benefit from it that way. And then it comes out and you breathe it in. So this is something you put up your nose like so, like you might see in hospitals, and you breathe in the gas. But you can also put the gas into water, so you can put your feet in the water, so if you want to work on your feet. You can also, you know, if you've got any injuries or something on your hand, you can put a glove on and have the gas going into the glove, so the gas is helping that particular injury there. There's lots and lots of different fittings you can use like this, so if there's a particular area of your body, say your chest, the gas can go in directly on your chest, like so. So there's lots of different applications, and in fact some of these different bits do come with the machine. And there's the goggles there, so you can actually put the tube through the top of the goggles here, put the goggles on, and then if you have any eye issues, anything like that, then the gas can go around your eyes and help your eyes. So yeah, lots of different applications. So my feelings on the machine: expensive, the machine, but worth it, I think. We got ours for £2,500 on sale at the time 3 years ago, but I've noticed the price has come down, so even the full price of the machine now is around that price. So it's a lot of money up front, and this is why a lot of people ask, is it worth it? I want to know more about the machine. So myself and my wife, quite healthy people, so we've had periods where we've breathed for 20 minutes to an hour every day for many months, and the initial thing we notice is sort of a tingling in our lungs, like this. It's more energized, quite often feeling a little bit more awake. But generally speaking, because we're quite healthy, we don't notice that much on a day-to-day basis. You can't smell the gas, you can't necessarily notice lots more energy, not all the time anyway. But over time we've noticed it does give us more energy, it does sort of support us very nicely. So that doesn't sound very promising so far, does it? But there's been some amazing things that have happened with the machine. So one example is I went to the beach one day, burnt my feet, splashing away in the ocean lots, and all that light coming through the water onto my feet burnt my feet. So they were very sore, and I was expecting my feet to continue to be sore for days, maybe start cracking and have scabs on them, that kind of thing. Really quite burnt. So I thought, okay, this is a good time to test out the Hydroxy machine. So I put my feet into a bowl of water and put my feet into the bowl of water and then bubbled the gas into the water. So I just literally took the end of the tube. I think I took the nasal thing at the time, and I just put that in the water so the gas was bubbling through the water. So I knew that the hydrogen and the oxygen and the super charged water was going to be in the water with my feet. And I did that not on the highest setting, and I'll talk about different settings later, but I had it on 45% of its capacity, so it wasn't bubbling the maximum it could have been bubbling through. And after an hour of my feet in the water, I took them out and was quite amazed actually, because my feet, I could actually touch them, they weren't sore, and it had this lovely tingling feeling to them. Yeah, really nice, like they were much more sensitized, and I could feel much more information through the touch of my feet. But yeah, no soreness, and I didn't need another session on my feet after that, and they were absolutely fine for the few days after as well, just from that one session. So very impressed, and that very much highlights the power of hydrogen to mop up free radicals and really heal things. Another story, an important story, was my uncle. He ended up with lots of blood clots on his lungs and cancer in his neck after the recent COVID jab. So I won't talk any more about that, because videos do tend to get banned talking about the vaccinations that happened not long ago. But yeah, anyway, he had lots of problems. He got rushed to hospital, and with the cancer in his neck they operated on that, took most of the cancer out, but they thought it was too risky to take the remainder of the cancer out. So he had a lot of stiffness because they fused his neck as well, in a lot of pain, on morphine a lot, and he read up all the different scientific studies that we showed him about this particular machine, and he decided, rather than borrow mine, that he'd go and buy his own. And he's been breathing that every day, and yeah, drastic decrease in the pain in his neck over time. He's now not taking morphine at all. and yeah, much more mobility in his neck, and a lot of the consultants are surprised at how much he's improved. And that's the other thing, he actually was paralysed because of the cancer in his neck, so he couldn't move his arms, couldn't move his legs, couldn't move his abdominals, and he was told that basically he probably wouldn't gain any movement back in his hands and wouldn't be able to grip things, and he would probably need a carer for the rest of his life. But of course he's got more movement back. It's not perfect yet, but he's got much more movement back, and he can grip things, and he can drive his own car now. So we were very impressed with how much he recovered after that ordeal, considering everyone said that he wouldn't do that well. So yeah, those are the two biggest stories in my life. There have been some other people that have had some very positive results. There's a gentleman I was treating who had, what's the name of the disease now, where you got lots of fluid on your lungs. Can't think of the word at the moment for some reason. But yeah, he noticed that, yeah, that tingling with his lungs, which seemed much more prominent, much more obvious than what my wife and myself experienced when breathing it in. And yeah, for a few days after a quick 30 to 40 minute session, he says that he breathes much more clearly several days afterwards. So lots of positive stories about it. I won't go into other stories that are already on the internet, but some amazing things people are doing, you know, plant life growing much bigger and stronger by bubbling gas through the water that you feed the plants. Lots of people with different types of skin cancer on their head and body parts, and bubbling the gas through water and putting that water on their skin. People with scars. I know my scars aren't quite so obvious anymore. There's one there, it used to be quite red, quite prominent, quite sensitive here on this point of my collarbone. I broke it in 5 pieces, by the way, mountain biking many years ago. But yeah, that's a noticeable improvement there since breathing the gas. But yeah, scars, people saying that when they put a big long glove on and put the gas in at this end of the hand, so the gas comes up the glove, the long glove, and they're noticing that their scars are slowly disappearing, big scars from accidents, slowly disappearing over many months of letting the gas enter their body. So yeah, lots and lots of amazing stories on the internet from different people. Yes, so please look at those. I won't go into those too much because there are already videos on those. The key thing I would say with the Hydroxy machine is you can hire them, you know, for months at a time. So you can pay people to take one home and hire it for some time. You can also go to some clinics. There's not many in the UK at the moment, but you can go to some clinics, much more in America I believe, where you can pay to breathe the gas. Personally, I think if you've got any sort of chronic issue, any sort of chronic problem, if you really want to get rid of a big scar, or work on any sort of particular disease that you feel that might benefit from antioxidants, because this is a very powerful antioxidant, hydrogen gas especially, I do feel that it would be better for you to actually buy a machine so that you can breathe it every day, because I do believe that the amount you breathe and how often you breathe is important. It's a very powerful antioxidant, but if you're only going to go to a clinic, say once a week, and breathe it, it's not really going to have the effects that you want if you've got a really serious condition you want to work on. So it's definitely worth buying one. Hiring one can be okay if you want to test it out, but of course after so many months you may as well have bought a machine, you know, if you're hiring one. So definitely the frequency, the amount you breathe in, how often you breathe in during the day makes a big difference. A lot of the people who've had success with cancers, for example, or neurological diseases, so things like Huntington's, Parkinson's disease, different types of dementia, They very much benefit by having it more often. Some people would breathe it all through the night, so you can set up the machines that you can breathe all night if you really want to work on a problem. And of course, owning your own machine is the best way of doing that. So those are my thoughts on the effectiveness of the machine. I think it's got great potential, and it's certainly worth a try and certainly worth researching more about this. There's a lot of studies, by the way, so because this produces oxygen and hydrogen gas, there are studies on oxygen gas, and there's also studies on hydrogen gas separately. So amazing studies in curing the supposedly incurable with oxygen alone, and there's also tons of studies of curing lots of different diseases with hydrogen alone as well. So a Brown's gas machine will do both oxygen and hydrogen, and of course that supercharged water, which hasn't had much study on it yet. You can find plenty of studies even on PubMed, even on official channels, so there's plenty out there for you to read. Okay, I will pause there and then I'll take you through the workings of the machine a bit more. Okay, so I gave you a little brief overview of some of the science behind it and how it splits water into hydrogen and oxygen and the supercharged water. A little bit more about that, shall we? So again, you can go and research this yourself, lots of studies out there on this, but essentially the main thing that makes this machine worth buying is the hydrogen component. That's the most studied one in terms of antioxidant power, if you like. So I'm sure you've heard the word antioxidant before and how beneficial that is to many, many different diseases and health in general. Essentially in the body, and your body does produce toxins by itself, even if you don't introduce any heavy metals or pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, or heavy metals from paints and different things. So even if you're not introducing that into your own body, your body does create free radicals on occasion, which is why you need them. And basically a free radical is something that is very damaging because it has a spare electron on its outer shell. If we're talking about atoms, or a spare electron as well if we're talking about molecules, and that can react very easily with other molecules in the body. So it can react with proteins, it can react with enzymes, it can damage cell membranes and tissues, it can cause all sorts of different issues in the body, all sorts of different diseases. So free radicals basically, antioxidants, they donate an electron so that those free radicals aren't reactive anymore and it can cause a problem. And the reason why hydrogen gas is such a powerful antioxidant is because it's so small. It's only got, one electron hydrogen on its own and one proton and a number of neutrons, one or more depending on the type of hydrogen, but it's a very small atom. So hydrogen gas, which is two hydrogen atoms joined together, is very, very small, and it can very easily pass through lots of different membranes in the body, very easily get into places that other antioxidants can't get to. So vitamin C, for example, is quite a big molecule actually. So it doesn't mop up free radicals, it doesn't mop up toxins in as many places as hydrogen can. Not many things can get into the mitochondria of your cells, for example. But hydrogen can. It's really small, it gets in there, and it can mop up free radicals. And in fact, because it can donate electrons, and that's where the electron transport chain happens, is in your mitochondria, which is where you produce your ATP, is where you produce the energy, in other words, that your body needs for everything to work. It can actually boost your energy levels as well. Like I say, myself and my wife are already pretty healthy, so we didn't notice a big impact so much in that respect. Other people have. So other people who have chronic fatigue, that type of thing, have noticed a boost in their energy levels. So yes, it can get in anywhere and really help anything, so that's why there's a lot of interest in hydrogen in healing DNA issues, because it can get in there and help repair things, help stop the DNA be damaged, of course. So a lot of people are very interested in the anti-aging effects of hydrogen, and of course the beauty industry. There's lots of countries in Asia where they have hydroxy machines bubbling that gas into water so people can lie in it and sit in it for health and beauty. So a lot of people looking at improving their skin look into this as well, not just for disease and general health. So yes, a very powerful antioxidant, hydrogen gas. So that's how it works on a biological level. Okay, so let's go into the machine a little bit. I'll switch it on and show you how it works. I'll show you first all the different things that come with the machine. So from Osmio, so you obviously get the machine itself, you get the this attachment here that catches any condensation, any vapour, so that it falls back into the machine. You get this, which is the second stage of making sure you don't get any of the sodium hydroxide into your body, and then of course the part where you put water in for drinking purposes, or to put on your body, of course. So this is the sodium hydroxide, so you have plenty of this, so anytime you want to empty the machine, clean it out, you get more of this so that you can refill the machine. I think I've already shown you some of these things earlier, but you get goggles if you want to pass gas through to help with any eye issues. You get gloves for mixing the sodium hydroxide, but also you can use these if you've got any hand issues. You can put the gloves on and put the tube of the gas inside there so that the gas surrounds your hands. You get this attachment, so if there's any particular body part that you want the gas to be directed to, then you can do that. That's something I didn't cover earlier actually, about how best to apply it for different things. If I remember, I'll talk about that. You get lots of spare tubes for breathing gas in. You get a syringe, so we use this to put more water in the machine after it's been set up. This is a Tds meter, so basically you put this in your water to measure how many parts per million of molecules there are in your water. So you can use this to test whether you really have distilled your water before putting it in the machine, and this can verify how much parts per million of different chemicals there may be. And it doesn't tell you whether those molecules are good or bad for you or what they are, it just tells you how many bits there are in the water. So obviously with distilled water it shouldn't be very many at all. Okay, and then we have some tape here to make the seal up here nice and tight so no water gets out. We also have a funnel for making it easier to put water in earlier on, and we do have a little mixing thing they provide for mixing the sodium hydroxide. So when you do set up this machine, this bit isn't on to start with, so you get some distilled water. Obviously it's worth buying a distiller, of course. It can get expensive if you keep buying distilled water, so much easier to buy a distiller to distill your own water. And all a distiller does is you put tap water in and it heats up the water to boiling point, and then you collect the water vapour. So the water vapour, is much purer water when after it's collected compared to the tap water, which will have all sorts of stuff in there. All sorts. We're talking all sorts of different drugs, chlorine, fluoride if you're unlucky in some areas. So a distiller will boil the water so the water vapour is collected and leave everything else in the bottom of the distiller. Very simple. So you mix sodium hydroxide, which in America they call lye, and you pour it into here, and that sodium hydroxide keeps it clean, stops bacteria, mould, etc. from growing in here, and it also makes it easier for the water to be separated as well. And like I said earlier, the oxygen, hydrogen gas mainly, Brown's gas, like I talked about earlier, passes through here, bubbles through here, so any sodium hydroxide that escapes this process here gets caught here. So it's a second way of making it nice and safe that you don't get any in your body. And then passes into here, which can be your drinking water or water you put on a part of your body if you want. And then you can breathe it in or use any of the other attachments to apply the gas to your body. So that's how it works. I will show you now in operation. So let's turn it on. So it gets a little bit noisy initially as it kicks off. There is a timer on this one, so you can buy different timers. You know, there will be a different timer on whatever machine you buy. Sometimes it's digital, sometimes it's a twist clock like this one. And up here we have your frequency and your duty. So at the moment it's on 45% capacity, so that means if I up it, so you can probably hear the difference. If I whack it up to 100%, you can see that the gas is bubbling. The gas is being created much quicker, and it bubbles much more here, and much more gas comes out this end. And of course I can breathe it in like so, through my nose. So let's drop that down. So you will alter this depending on your body weight, so how much hydrogen is needed to saturate your body. So you will alter that depending on your body weight, and you will also alter that depending on what you're doing as well. So if you're breathing, then a low percentage is good, because obviously oxygen and hydrogen is flammable. So a lower percentage is better to make sure that you know, if any spark happens around you, then you're not going to burn your lungs. Okay, but you will put that percentage up much higher if you're bubbling it through water for your feet, for example. There's also a frequency thing here for those into vibration, who understand about vibration. So I've got it set at 5 to 8 Hertz, which is one of the frequencies that's really good for the heart chakra, really good for love if you're into that kind of thing. And you can alter it, you can drop it down to 432 Hertz. So yeah, you can change the vibration of the gas as well. So that's a neat little thing. Yes, so you got to remember sometimes to breathe. Obviously, if you want to make the most of this, make sure you're breathing through your nose. Nice deep breaths, otherwise you're probably wasting a lot of the gas. So that's it in operation, and as you can tell now it's a little bit quieter than compared to when I switched it on. Okay, and then so they recommend that you change this quite often, because you want to make sure that you don't have any of the lye or the sodium hydroxide come through into your body. So what you would do is empty this out and refill it with distilled water every so often. And then of course this is your level here on the front of the machine, telling you how much water you have left in the machine, and it does last a surprisingly long time actually. Obviously the higher the percentage you put it and the longer you use it, the quicker you're going to use it up, but it's surprising how long it can last. And then once the level goes down low, this is where you use your syringe. So you would pick up distilled water with the syringe like so, and then there's this nozzle on the top here which you would then syringe in there. And we do it this way so that you don't have to take the top off and ruin the seal here so often. That's why we do it, use a syringe. So I was going to talk about how best to use the machine for different issues, because there are lots of ways of applying the gas to your body and getting it to where your body needs it. So breathing is generally a good idea for a lot of different things, because as you breathe it in, it goes into your lungs, and of course it goes into your blood, and that blood transports the hydrogen and the oxygen around the body to wherever it may be needed. And of course breathing in is generally a good all-round thing to do, because the body is a unit. Everything affects everything. So when you breathe it in, it's a good way of getting the hydrogen into your blood and getting it around to different organs in your body so that they're all working efficiently. And if a lot of those organs are working more efficiently, then they can help other organs work better, and so generally will really help your health overall very nicely by breathing it in. Obviously if there's any lung issues and heart issues, that's for sure the best way of doing it. Any nose issues, anything to do with the larynx or pharynx, very good way of getting the hydrogen and oxygen to that as well. However, if there's a part of your body that wouldn't directly get the hydrogen that way, so obviously your body will use it as it's coming into your body, so something further away from the chest and the internal organs may not get as much hydrogen as it could, so that's why you would use a different applicator. So for example, on my wrist here I have a bit of a scar on my left wrist, again another mountain bike injury. So if I want to work, can I show you on the camera? So if I wanted to work on this scar here and improve my mobility, or if I've got arthritis in my fingers for example, then you might want to use a glove. So you can put the glove on like so, and you would grab a tube, so it doesn't have to be the nasal one by the way, but just for simplicity, and I just put that inside the glove. And then when I switch the machine on, the gas will go into the glove and surround my fingers, so if there's any issues with arthritis or finger issues, then of course this directly sends the hydrogen gas to the fingers, and of course that will help my scar because it's very close by. I know some people who've had injuries up their forearm and elbow or even into the shoulder will get one of those long gloves, like vets use on animals. So they would again put the tube here, sorry, trying to get it so you can see the camera. They put the tube near their fingers and then the gas would come up their arm and help heal whatever with that. So that's very useful. You could do similar with rubber socks if there's any issues with your feet, but personally with feet I would get a bowl of water and bubble the gas through the water to work on feet. It's a bit warm today, I'm struggling to get the glove off my hand. There we go. So that's a really good way of getting the feet or any body part that you're willing to put underwater. So if there's any part of your legs you'd like to work on, or any part of your body that's quite hard to use any other applicator, especially if it's on the skin, then jump in the bath. Fill up the bath and bubble the gas through the water. And you may want to put the nozzle where the bubbles come from close to the place you want to work on. But of course over time that water will be saturated with hydrogen anyway. The mask, so the goggles obviously for eyes. So with the goggles they supply, there is a little hole at the top here, so you can put a tube in there so that the gas can surround your eyes. The other option is to take water that's been bubbled away with for at least 10 minutes. So it takes about 10 minutes apparently to fully saturate the water in this container here. So after 10 minutes that's at about 45% capacity, by the way. So after 10 minutes or so you can take that water out, and you can get a cotton bud or a cloth, soak it in that water, and you can put that on your eye or on your skin that way. So that's another way you can apply the gas. Is there any other way? So there's this attachment here, which you can use for any particular body part. I'm not a big fan of this particular attachment because, generally speaking, you've got to hold it in place and on most places on your body to stop it falling off. And most of the time it's nice to find a more relaxing way if you're going to be sat there for 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Okay, so I think that covers it. A very brief recap. Expensive machine, but worth it. So especially if you've got any chronic issues, any particular issues that are supposedly incurable, that kind of thing, things that are prolonged, then much better to buy one so that you can breathe or use the gas in some way every day, rather than pay a lot more money to go and breathe it at a clinic or to rent one. So even though it's a couple of £1,000s, well worth the money in that respect. And there's lots of different ways you can use it. It's pretty good for maintenance. The Osmio company I bought this from do offer a service after, I think it's every 600 hours of use. They recommend sending it back so that they clean it out, and that's about £75 last time I paid, including the postage. So they take it, clean it out and send it back for you all for £75, so very, very good. Yeah, low maintenance, easy to use once you understand how it works. The only thing I would say is, I know some people do put drinking water into this part here, but I've noticed if I put anything other than distilled water here, it's quite easy for mould to grow in here, because hydrogen, oxygen, very nutritious, not just for your body but for many organisms or all life. So if you don't have distilled water in here, you may find that you have mould or something growing in here and through the tubes. So we actually bought a new part here to replace the mouldy one. So be aware of that. Yeah, I think that covers it. If there's any questions, please write below or email me, and please like and subscribe if you'd like to support this channel. Any suggestions on what you'd like me to review in the future, I'm more than happy as well. Okay, bye bye.